This program is brought to you by realestate.com.au, Australia's #1 address in property. With more properties for sale than anywhere else, we make it easier.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at what's happening in the property market this weekend. There are 1,970 auctions scheduled this week. That's up about 15% on the same week last year. In Sydney, there'll be 451 auctions with another 142 auctions in regional New South Wales. In Melbourne, there'll be 814 auctions with another 70 around Victoria. In Brisbane, there'll be 109 auctions and another 203 in regional Queensland. Adelaide will host 103 auctions with another 6 in South Australia, and Canberra has 45 auctions scheduled. Taking a look at the most viewed properties that are going to auction this weekend, and 7 Samuel Street, Croydon is up the top of the list there in Victoria. It's got 4 bedrooms with a price guide of about $1.1 million. Next is 4 Prospector Court, Wheelers Hill, Victoria. It also has 4 bedrooms, price guide of about $1.2 million. Then we have 159 Blackburn Road, Mount Waverley in Victoria. This 3-bedroom unit has a price guide of up to $825,000. Then it's 16 Young Street, Glen Iris, Victoria. And rounding out the list is 27 Shears Street, Alphington, also Victoria. And that property at the top of the list there the auction has been cancelled for that one in Borkham Hills. So every property this week is in Victoria. And our top listing this week, it's a 3-bedder in the northern Brisbane suburb of Geebung. This house at 12 Berthot Street sits on about 450 square metres and has an elevated position which gets a cool breeze and has some views of the Brisbane CBD. This renovated property has 3 light-filled bedrooms, a main bathroom and an extra toilet, plus a paved outdoor patio and a covered car space out the front, along with a secure garage that is under the house. It's about 7 kilometres from the airport and about 10 from the city. The agents are taking offers over $900,000 for this property. So that's probably why it's been the most clicked on property on realestate.com over the past week. Well, let's bring in Paul Ryan, Senior Economist at PropTrack. Paul, thanks for your time today. Almost 2,000 auctions scheduled this week. Is the market really starting to pick up again?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we're seeing. So we've got more auctions than we saw last weekend and more auctions than we saw for this weekend last year. So it's really, spring's really getting into full gear, and we're expecting quite robust conditions this year. No interruptions from lockdowns, lots of buyers in the market on realestate.com.au, that's for sure. It'll be interesting to see what happens to the market.
Yeah, and how are auction clearance rates tracking at the moment? Are they still a little bit below average right now?
Yeah, we saw this process where as prices started to come down earlier in the year, auction clearance rates fell as well. But they've stabilised over the past couple of weeks and over the past month, really. I think what's happened here is that initially it took time for sellers to understand that actually these interest rate rises mean the buyers don't have as much to spend. And now they're kind of coming to market a bit more. So there's a bit more certainty, both from buyers as to how much money they've got to spend and how much interest rates are going to be earlier in the next year. And I think sellers are recognising where the market is at the moment.
Yeah, how long do you think it took for vendors to realise they kind of needed to adjust their price expectations? Because clearly the market is starting to cool off a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen prices fall for 4 or 5 months now. And I think the first 2 or 3 months of that fall, I think sellers were still keying their expectations based on sales that happened earlier in the year or late last year. And once they saw, I think, more recent sales, more comparable sales coming through, they've adjusted those expectations. And you can see from those auction clearance rates that have been flat for the past few weeks that I think sellers and buyers are on the same page at the moment.
Look, Reserve Bank, they meet next week on Tuesday. Are you expecting we might see 50 basis points again from the RBA?
Yeah, that's our expectation, along with lots of other people in the market. Now, I think that's a bit of a foregone conclusion, but I think we're getting close to the end of the RBA's hiking cycle. So there may be a bit more to come after another 50 basis points. But I think that's the thing that matters to people is there's a bit more certainty that mortgage rates are going to kind of level off towards the end of this year, and hopefully the RBA will take some time to pause and assess the impact of these interest rate rises.
Let's talk inflation in Australia. We actually got some numbers from the ABS yesterday showing inflation in the months of July and August, and it showed inflation in August was 6.8%. So do you think there's a chance inflation has already peaked in the country?
Yeah, interesting numbers from the ABS, a new monthly series, so we'll have a better read on inflation going forward. It seemed to show that although inflation is really high, as you pointed out, it may have leveled off. So the RBA will be watching that keenly, and we'll be interested to see how that transfers into the quarterly numbers that are the official inflation numbers. But yeah, so promising signs perhaps that maybe this is the peak of inflation in Australia.
Daylight savings returns this weekend to most of the east coast of Australia. What are your expectations for the property market for the remainder of spring?
So we continue to expect prices to slide lower throughout spring and into next year, and that's off the way to those big interest rate increases, the fastest interest rate increases we've seen since 1994. But I mean, all the hallmarks there are for a really strong selling season. So we've got strong listings activity. We've got lots of buyers in those late stages of their buying journey and still looking to buy. So it's a case of lots of buyers out there looking to transact. And I think the reason for that is strong economic conditions and strong late labour market conditions. But they just don't have as much money to spend, with borrowing capacity down more than 20% already since the start of the year.
Well, Paul Ryan, Senior Economist with PropTrack, thanks for your time today.
Thanks very much.